Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune. We got Spencer Forsythe on the board, and it is camp season because Parker's got the cutoff going on, but it's also ChampU BBQ official visit season. There's official visitor on campus right now, none other than Lamont Rogers, 4-star, top Rivals 100 offensive lineman, and we've got a lot to talk about. Parker, go ahead.
Yes, Brandon, that we do because first off, not only is it camp season, not only is it cutoff season, but it is also smooth sack summer. And this episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live is brought to you by Manscaped. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that smooth sack summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed, and you can do so thanks to our friends at Manscaped. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. More on that in just a second. But know that the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why we trust Manscaped for all of our sensitive areas. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, which is featured dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3-length setting combs, and I mentioned this trimmer is waterproof as well, beach, lake, or shower. This razor will cut through even the strongest pubes. And now that you have the perfect haircut, use Manscaped's liquid formulations to keep that freshness even at the hottest summer barbecues. The Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 5.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. You can get all that and much more, 20% off with free shipping when you use code OU Insider at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code OU Insider at manscaped.com. It's smooth sack summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
There you go. All right. How do we want to start this off, Parker? I mean, do we want to talk some Marcus Harris? I mean, I think we're bearing the lead because he did commit. I think that'd be the first thing we
We
should talk
discussed it
about.
on the podcast. I'm sure not
Yeah, but we haven't
everybody has
discussed it on the
watched the
live.
podcast. It does bear a mention. Very impressive work by Emmett Jones. And as we mentioned on the podcast, the immediate rejoinder from Texas fans is going to be, well, he wasn't that high of a priority at Texas, which is probably true, right? They're going after guys like Jamie French and Kalik Lockett and Decorian Moore. So certainly understand it. And I would imagine there is an element of truth in the notion that Marcus Harris was low on the priority list for Texas at the wide receiver position. But that can be true. And it can also be true, and it is, that Marcus Harris in his own right is a really, really good football player, top
Mm-hmm.
150 player in the nation out of modern day high school in Santa Ana, California. Powerhouse high school program. He was a 5-star at one point in the cycle, had a laundry list, 30 plus FBS offers. Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Michigan, those were among his top schools. And Emmett Jones got in the game late. Well, he'd been in the game for a while, but the Sooners really made a surge late, got his official visit booked late in the process, and that's all it took was one official visit for Marcus Harris to say, you know what? I want to be a
Mm-hmm.
Sooner.
Yeah, no doubt. And Lori, yes, this is live. We all know that it is not brand new news, but it literally happened a day and a half ago. Like you acting like it was like it's like this is a week old news, Parker. Week old news. It happened 2 days ago. We haven't been live since then, so we're gonna discuss it. Sorry. Um, anyways, yeah, it was great. It was a good pickup. It just shows you just kind of the teeth in the metal of Emmett Jones, like you said. And I mean, the fact that Andrew Marsh now is not visiting, I think has I so you and I both put in future casts for Cortez Mills. I talked to somebody early this morning and they felt like it was leaning in that direction or trending in that direction, but obviously he's going to visit LSU. Um,
Does not worry me.
I don't know that I can agree with that. Just because it's LSU and wide receivers, it's like them in Ohio State, something with wide receivers in them. It's almost like what Bama had there going for a little bit, and LSU has been like a 20-year thing with their wide receiver stuff, and
Sure.
so is Ohio State for like a third. Ohio State's been producing wide receivers since I can remember. I mean, back to David Boston and Joey Galloway and all that. I mean, it's been forever. So, I it's just hard for me to look at those two programs and say, yeah, I wouldn't be worried about it. Obviously, Ohio State's not in this equation, but when you see LSU's name prop up there, I think you kind of get a little nervous, a little nervous. I still like Oklahoma though.
I do too.
I
And the reason
Yeah.
the reason I don't worry about LSU, Brandon, is not because they don't have a very strong pedigree at the wide receiver position. They do. Nobody would dispute that. It's just Cortez Mills and his circle, they seem like culture people. It's a Clemson
Mm,
OU battle. What are you making the decision for ultimately, if not for culture, when your final two contenders are those schools?
yeah.
Well, likely final two contenders. So the fact that the Miami official visit came off the books, if he OV'd to Miami, I would not have been all that worried about the Hurricanes. With him
No.
visiting LSU, I'm not all that worried about the Tigers. And he's spent much more time in Coral Gables than he has in Baton Rouge. So there's a lot more familiarity with Miami. But I think the point stands, man. This is a decision that it feels like is going to be made, feels like it's going to be spurred by which program has the better sell as far as their development and opportunity for Mills, but the crux of the reason why it is these two schools and the hairs that you have to split beyond that, it boils down to culture for Cortez Mills. And so I like where that's trending right now for Oklahoma. I would expect a decision within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think this one's going to last too much longer. And it doesn't really bother me. And I don't think it should bother most Sooner fans that Andrew Marsh isn't going to OV at the ChampU BBQ anymore. That's just been such an all over the board recruitment. And I don't mind the fact that Emmett Jones and Oklahoma aren't going to be playing that perpetual game with Marsh anymore. They got a guy that they like in Mills that it seems like things are in pretty stable shape with if they can continue to sustain the momentum out of that OV. And then the one wide receiver that is visiting this weekend in the ChampU BBQ, Brandon, is a guy in Manny Choice that I think is severely underrated as a high 3 star
Yes.
right now with us at Rivals. But a guy that Oklahoma is primarily battling Texas A&M for, and there's just been a very stable, unbothered confidence within the Switzer Center for months now that Manny Choice is going to be a Sooner at the end of it all. So
Hmm.
that confidence to me, it's part of the reason I put in a future cast for Choice to Oklahoma at the beginning of May. And I trust that they get it done with both him and Cortez Mills, which that'd be 5 receivers in the class at that point for Oklahoma. And in a world where you only go 1 for 2, you bat 500 with those last two targets. Again, I think they get them both right now, but I understand it could be sort of tricky once you get 4 committed to lock down the fifth because those other schools are going to start to get in his ear and say, "Hey, do you really want to be one of 5 at Oklahoma?" Or because, for instance, Texas A&M, they don't have a wide receiver commit in the 2025 class yet, so now that's something that they're going to be leveraging with Manny Choice. But if you only get one of the two, man, that's still an amazing haul at wide receiver for Emmett Jones in the
Yes.
25 cycle. Amazing haul. 4 blue chippers, any way you slice it, because Manny Choice will be a force.
Yes. I kind of agree there. I think one, Choice is super underrated. Two, I just find that um, you know, Mills would be an amazing get. But like you said, if you can get one of the two, I think with what you've already got committed to you with the two Harris, and Elijah Thomas, I think you walk away going, okay, you've got four really good players, and you're gonna run with that, and then probably go grab a portal guy or two and be completely set, and not just set, but be really good at wide receiver in 2025. Because I know that OU's trying to supplant and trying to prepare themselves for the potential of, a collection of either obviously Farouk and Andrew Anthony. They're out of eligibility after this year. But then you've got Burks Jr. could be gone after this year. You have obviously Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson. So you got five guys that legitimately could be, you know, NFL guys down the line, at least after this season or after the 25 season. So what you're trying to do is you're really trying to prepare and build depth and get these guys into your obviously program so that you can really build upon that. And if Emma Jones can do that, if he can get 4 or 5, which we both think they can, right? I think you can add
Mhm.
one of the two and maybe possibly go 2 for 2 down the list as far as Mills and obviously Choice go. You're doing a really good job when you add on to what you did the previous cycle, and then obviously what we know he can do in the portal. So I like that a lot. Let's get to Mongo real quick. Appreciate you, Mongo, with the super chat. I've had hangovers that lasted longer than Justice Terry's commitment to Mule Shoe. Shout out to Reggie Powers Jr. Fair enough. I think 5 stars and Mule Shoe have been kind of rough here as of late. So um I do want to make a note on Isaiah Gibson. Uh yeah, he is listed to go to Oklahoma this week, and he's the Rivals 250 defensive end out of Georgia. Um, the issue you're running into right now is that Miami's trying to make a late push, and so yeah, he is set. And I've talked to people. There's some people that I know, and sources that I've talked to have named commits that are going to be quote quote hosting Elijah Gibson this weekend, but um, as of Tuesday, I was told that it was still on, but that they were holding on because Miami was trying to make a push. I'll see if I can't figure something out and give you all an update over the next 24, 48 hours on OU Insider VIP. But I did want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's becoming somewhat clear that Isaiah Gibson's recruitment is going to be something of a bag war, right? And
mhm.
with where Oklahoma sits, obviously an ideal position for Cade Petchak. We expect him in the class. CJ Nixon, definitely
Yes.
expect him in the class as well. That would be 3 defensive ends when you throw in Alex Shield Knight. I
Got a
think
note on
there's,
CJ Nixon, by the way. I just put up on OU Insider like just a second. So
and I think there's a possibility you get a fourth. Like, things aren't completely toast with Max Granville. He is taking
they
his
are
official
not.
visit this
Nope.
weekend,
Mm-mm.
and Oklahoma's got a puncher's chance, if nothing else. There, I don't think they end up. I don't think they end up with Smith or Robo. And obviously, I think Gibson probably ends up at Georgia or Auburn right now, based on what I've heard. So, and you have Ohio State in the mix, you have Miami in the mix. Not really banking on that one, but Oklahoma's going to be okay. There's nothing. I mean, Miguel Chavis has put himself in a covetable enough position that his class isn't living or dying with whether Isaiah Gibson wants to come along. And I'll add this, man. I don't know if there are much more than 8 or 10 defensive ends in the country that I'd take over Cade Petchak. And I know I'm not the only one that has that opinion. Really, really thinks the world of that kid.
Yeah. I just read a comment on our board of the recruiting analyst guy that said he's making it known to everybody that Fasusi, he put in his future cast to Fasusi if anybody wanted to know. Um, just that dude cracks me up. I'm trying to figure out if he's serious or not on that he really thinks he's a recruiting. I great poster on our board, but is he serious about it?
I'll tell you, man, he has some really good insights from time to time. For instance, I I tipped the cap to him in a note earlier. He knew that Christian Evans was heavily trending to Virginia Tech before I had stumbled upon that information.
Well, the
So
Virginia Tech had been talking. Their poster had been talking about that forever. Like they were the ones trending. Like
no, they hadn't. That was out of left field. Uh,
literally in the last month, I literally read that on a couple of their boards. Like, no, just can't see him leaving the state. All that type of stuff. I could pull the
See,
link up
they
for
didn't
you.
even have him. I don't think it was until May like 29th, 30th that they even got on his official visit schedule. He was
That's what I
originally
mean. Like
scheduled to
in the
go
last
to
month,
Boston
they felt
College.
like they were trending. Once I guess he got scheduled, they thought they were gonna be hard to beat. I
Yeah,
guess.
which is such like, and the fact that that is now turned left, and there's another nugget for those of you and OU Insider members have been able to read up on some of the behind the scenes on this, but Christian Evans is no longer expected in Norman this weekend for an official visit, and I would think that by the end of the week he is probably publicly committed to Virginia Tech, and what an unfortunate stroke of luck that is for Todd Bates. That in the span of 2 weeks, you have Cole Breeler shut down his recruitment early and commit to Stanford, and then Christian Evans appears to be on the precipice of shutting down his recruitment early and committing to Virginia Tech, which
Mhm.
you can't really do anything about that if you're Todd Bates. If they're not going to give you
No.
a shot, you can't beg him into it. But
No, there's a lot of people that really are hating on Bates though right now. It's yeah, it makes zero sense off of everything that he's done in the last 36 months. Like that's your go-to is to bash that dude. Are what are we doing?
I
What are
haven't
we
seen
doing?
people bashing Todd Bates, which
Oh
is
my God. They're like, how you lose out this Christian Evans to Virginia Tech and what's going on with Floyd Bacard and is he only really going to get Kamari Moore and, you
I
know,
will say
Trent Wilson?
the
I get it. I
The
get it.
Floyd Boucard recruitment just became significantly more important.
It did. But what and then the Cole Braylor thing, you can't really hate on that because he went because of academics. It had nothing to do with NIL, it had nothing to do with wanting to be developed. It's eerily similar to Babalola, whose dad is a doctor.
Hmm.
And so education matters a ton to those guys and those families. So sometimes there are just Stanford does that a lot. Um, Virginia Tech getting a random kid out of Virginia that maybe they shouldn't have gotten because the kid wanted to stay close to home is also a regular annual thing. It used to be the Virginia Cavaliers back in the day, but ever since Beamer back in the mid 90s, it turned into now it's Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech used to get everybody out of Virginia, but now I totally get it. It's not a great look, but at the same time, Bates has done some phenomenal things. So I don't really get the bashing and the Floyd Bacard thing. I think if Oklahoma really wants to play ball, I think they can do it. And let's be honest, say you get Kamari Moore, Trent Wilson, and Floyd Bacard. I still think that's a great haul, right? In a class that doesn't really have deep or like super talented D tackles. Like it's not this whole all across the nation. Defensive tackle really isn't the go to position
No,
like it was in
it's not a
24.
terribly strong class of
It's
defensive
no,
tackles.
it's
Bates got one of the really good ones in Trent Wilson,
mm-hmm.
and he's
Yep.
got the opportunity to get another of the really good ones in Floyd Boucard. And I like Kamari Moore. You know, he like is he anything more than a low 4-star dude just because of what he has physically been endowed with as far as stature is concerned? Probably not. He's
Mhm.
got a ceiling, but
The fact
uh,
that you used the word endowed following like 5 7 minutes ago doing a Manscaped ad is peak Parker. I love it, even though you weren't meaning that.
that
But
was almost 20 minutes ago.
20 minute man, see, time flies when you're having fun, right?
And I suppose we are having fun. It is
Yeah.
OV season, but
Hmm.
no, I like Trent Wilson as a player. I like Kamari Moore as a player. I think those are two guys that are going to play meaningful snaps at the University of Oklahoma, and a lot of them. Now, if you get Floyd Boucard, you check the box on that defensive tackle class.
Yeah.
Everything's great. I think the average fan is going to be perfectly content with that group. Now, if you don't get Floyd Boucard, Brandon, that's where things get sticky because
Just
yes,
go grab portal guy.
Brandon Brown is coming to town this weekend.
Yes,
You'll
he
have a
is.
chance to flip him, but LSU's trying to do the same thing. So
Mama wants him at LSU.
it's really a shot in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, it's like, who else is there on the board? Makai Williams Lee. Now it's just the pickings get real slim.
But
So
didn't Makai Williams Lee won the MVP at the Georgia camp, Under Armour camp. So, I mean, it's not, he wouldn't be the worst get, right? Like, I mean, I just think what they've done leading up to this, you're able to take some flyers just because you have the depth you have at D tackle is young. Like, let's just for argument's sake, let's say Dominic Williams decides to stay for his senior year, so you get him for 2 instead of 1, right? Well, now you have sophomore David Stone, sophomore Jaden Jackson, senior Grayson Halton, right? Will he be a junior?
Grayson Halton is a junior this fall.
Yeah, he'll be a senior then in 25. Senior Grayson Halton. So you got 4 really good ones. Plus you got Trent Wilson. And then for argument's sake, let's say you got Kamari Moore and Blue Picard. You're okay. You're okay. And you're going to grab a portal guy or two because that's what Bates generally does. He'll go grab somebody for depth here or there. And if Oklahoma is as good as we feel they're going to be on defense this year, there's a decent chance that somebody pretty good gets in the portal and goes, I'm going to go play at Oklahoma in the defensive tackle because Todd Bates is there. So you still have options. It's not the end of the world because of how young and talented that room is. Like, I was talking to a source in Norman just last week or 2 weeks ago, and they said Oklahoma is now at the point where you can take high school guys that need developed because starting in 25 is what they were saying, because you have so much in front of them that is young and going to return over the next few days or next few years. So I kind of agree with them. So there's no need to bash because Bates has given himself some leeway here with how well he's done over the last 2 classes. So anyways, Virgil Walker, just a $20 with a thumbs up. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Virgil.
Yes. Message was retracted, it says. So anyways.
No. If you have a message, Virgil, we'll take a follow-up. But appreciate your support regardless.
Do you think Petchak could be a D tackle?
I think he could, and I floated that possibility on the board. Because he's big. He's big.
Huge.
He's 6'5" and north of 250 pounds, and he carries it well, right?
Yes.
So I don't know that you look at the kid and go, oh, that's 255 pounds away. No, he carries it really well. But I almost see him physically as another Isaiah Thomas type of guy. Isaiah Thomas was right about the same general vicinity coming out of high school, 6'5", and he was what, 250, 260 at that point coming out of high school. He wasn't terribly bulked up, but he was a guy that over the course of his career at Oklahoma played inside, he played outside, played defensive end, played defensive tackle. And I think they could get away with doing something like that with Petchak because he's also very powerful.
Right.
He's very powerful, and he's not going to get blown off the ball. A guy like Max Granville, for instance, is an amazing pass rusher. I don't know if there are more than 4 or 5 pass rushers in the 2025 cycle, if that are more gifted in terms of their ability to get after the quarterback than Max Granville. But Max Granville is not the guy that you're going to lean on against a run heavy team that's trying to shove it right down your throat.
Yeah.
Cade Petchak, I think, gives you some more flexibility in the sense that, yes, he can rush the passer. Yes, he can play a traditional defensive end and be an every down guy. But if you needed him to, he could easily get up to 285, 290 pounds and play a three tech, for instance.
Yeah.
So and again, that's part of the reason why I like the kid so much is because he is so naturally talented and there's so much that you can do with him based on his skill set and his frame.
Mhm.
So that's going to be a very valuable piece for Oklahoma if and when they add him in the 25 cycle.
Yeah. Kind of like a Jalen Redmond, like inside outside type guy, right? Like 4 eye, 5 tech. And you can line him up at 3 tech if you need be. Petchek's he brings some versatility to the defensive front that you really, really like. I you talked about Granville earlier,
Yeah.
and you and I have been talking about this for the last 48 hours after I talked to somebody.
It's an interesting
It's very
deal
interesting
right now
because
because,
neither one of us literally we were like, it is not happening. And I kid you not, when that person looked at me, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this dream world that we're living in Oklahoma that Granville is not going to A&M? And they're like, dude, look, like this thing is a lot closer than you think it is. And they made some pretty good, like Penn State and Oklahoma kind of fit, right? Like when you think about Granville and everything, A&M is a little different. You get past the Kobe Sellers stuff, and now it gets intriguing. Like if you can look past the fact that one of his best friends is going to A&M, and that's where everybody kind of has him written off to, and the fact that Oklahoma for the longest time before Sellers went to because Sellers was leaning towards Oklahoma for the longest time, right? And then they went ahead and went a different direction as far as cornerback went. But uh, if you can get past that and you can go, okay, well, there was probably a reason why Max Granville and Oklahoma were a thing and thought to be a thing for the longest time. Oklahoma's getting the last official visit.
mm-hmm.
Oklahoma does a really good job of that. Now, by no means are Parker and I saying that he's going to go to Oklahoma right now. Like, we're not there yet.
No, like I'll be candid. I don't think he winds up in the
There you
class.
go. But it's not the foregone conclusion that we perceived it to be over the last month and a half. And that's where it gets interesting because it's to the point where do we believe like if we were going to put in a pick right now, we put a day in him. That said, would we be shocked if Oklahoma flipped this thing on its head? No. No. One, that's what Oklahoma does. Two, you there was a reason. It's kind of like the Fasusi thing, Parker. Like Texas is like been the flavor of the month for like the last 2 months with him. Before that, there was like a little week or two of Missouri, but for months on end before that, it was Oklahoma, 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 Oklahoma. And now after his OV, everybody's going, no, hold on just a second. Oklahoma really is a major player here. And Texas obviously is going to all they have it's Fasusi or bust for Texas. Where Oklahoma's got 4 options at offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is on campus right now in Lamont Rogers. So it's going to be very hard to beat Texas because they're probably going to throw everything in the Brinks truck at them. And Oklahoma will do the same, but it's not going to do it at the level that Texas is doing because they don't have to do that. They can go, okay, it sucks you're going to Texas. Lamont, you want this? Cool. Come on over here, brother. Or, well, not Ty Haywood, because Ty Haywood is probably not going to make the visit, but Babalola, we have a good medical. it's kind of hard to swing the joke when the dude's leaning towards Stanford. But that's the other thing. And I talked to a source today, Parker, and you and I have discussed this a lot. If Babalola chooses Stanford and Pasusi and let's say Ty Haywood just automatically goes to Alabama, like we assume is going to take place, right? And um, let's just say Fasusi chooses Texas. Well, Lamont Rogers now becomes the hottest thing in this region in a battle between, once again, OU Missouri.
Exactly. And that right there.
But
Hmm.
but there is a family dynamic to this that we're not going to get into, but there is a family dynamic to this that plays in Oklahoma's hands. Here, that is way different than, and it's not something that is somebody wanting them to go somewhere. It is literally a personal
Yeah.
thing that could sway this one way or the other at the end of the day. So there's lot of variables here, Parker. Do you still think Oklahoma ends up getting one of the four? Because I do.
Yes, I do.
I do.
The one thing that could really screw things up, as I've said for a few weeks now, is Babalola to Stanford, especially now that Haywood might not even make an Oklahoma OV.
It doesn't look like it's happening at all.
Just, and
Florida State looks like they're going to get it.
I kind of feel about that situation how I have felt about the Andrew Marsh situation. Just like, okay, well, what that entire recruitment, if you had to sum it up in a single word, flaky. That's been the Ty Haywood recruitment. That's been the Andrew Marsh recruitment. So if Babalola goes to Stanford, I would still say Fasusi ends up at Texas right now. That's still my belief.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an all-out brawl between OU and Missouri over Lamont Rogers. And here's why that's particularly compelling to me, Brandon, is because a year ago, even 6 months ago, I would say, oh, if it comes down to a battle between OU and Missouri, Missouri wins that with money. The fact that it's Missouri that OU's going up against leads me to believe that maybe Brent Venables and Bill Bedenbaugh and the powers that be financially at the University of Oklahoma and the Crimson and Cream Collective decide, okay, we're going to be evil. Screw it. Whatever it takes. We're making sure Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri don't get Lamont Rogers. I almost kind of want that to happen just so we can see what the outcome of that battle would be.
But here's the thing is, do we believe that Babylon, like the person I talked to today even said Babalola is on the table for Oklahoma. Like that's still a thing. And so I'm just so intrigued on how this works. It went from being, okay, now Oklahoma's got to go 1 for 4. They got to go 1 for 3 because unless Ty Haywood just magically shows up to Norman over the next few days, that thing ain't happening. And everybody that thinks that, oh, well, it's another one of those flat tire situations. It's another one he got grounded. No. He had a family situation that was legitimate. Like it was a scary deal. So, anyways, I don't know, man. Lamont Rogers is on campus right now. And I've been saying it for 3 weeks now that I thought he was going to Oklahoma. I'm going to go. I'm still leaning in that direction. I think you're starting to join me too, by the way.
On Rogers?
Yes.
Let's wait till the visit gets over. I'll get back to you.
If they're getting one of them, who are they getting if it's not Rogers at this point? If you think Fasucci is going to Texas,
I'm very intrigued by what happens this weekend with Babalola. To me,
you just refuse to agree with me. You don't want Missouri to get, you don't want to miss out and lean on Missouri because you don't want the fans coming after you.
No. Listen, I do not care about what Missouri fans think of me. There's no point in caring at this point. But the reason why Babalola's visit intrigues me, and I guess I'm kind of rehashing some points from a recent podcast of ours here, is that if Babalola is high enough on Stanford to the point that
Mhm.
one of the greats of our industry and Steve Wiltfong is willing to throw down a prediction in favor of Stanford, I can think of many reasons Babalola might pick Stanford. Brandon,
Mhm.
money is not one of them. So that right there tells you money is no object to that kid.
Yeah, but
He is
education is, and I'm not hating on Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma education because it's a good one, but it ain't Stanford. And
okay,
I said
yes,
ain't on
and I agree with
purpose.
that. I agree
Said
with
ain't
that.
on
If
purpose.
this is a decision that's going to be made purely for academic reasons, then you would assume, you would conclude it's going to be Stanford.
Hmm.
But if Oklahoma can convince him to make a decision for reasons beyond the
Football.
academic opportunity, the possibility of NFL development under Bill Bedenbaugh, that's
Hmm.
where things get really, really interesting. So
Yeah.
I think this might sound counterintuitive if you're considering the fact that the kid's dad is a doctor and Stanford did just pull Cole Reeler out of nowhere 2 weeks ago. I think Stanford is the one school that you'd like to be going up against for Andrew Babalola because I think you're equipped to better fight that battle.
Yeah.
So I look, I think there's a very real chance they get Babalola. I think there's a very real chance they get Rogers. I think there's a very real chance that they get Fasusi. I wouldn't say they lead for any of the three right now. But
The
again, I feel confident that they get one, whoever that one may be.
and the foregone conclusion that Fasusi is going to Texas, if if he is just going after the bag, yeah, then Texas is probably going to win this one because Texas has to win this one via NIL. That is their go-to. Fasusi publicly, publicly is literally stating that Bill Bedenbaugh is the best to do it in the business. He is not shy of saying, that's my favorite coach that's recruiting me. That's the guy that is going to get me developed. I mean, if you go read the interview that he did with me on OU Insider, it was, dude, and I wasn't even asking him to like talk up Beanbo. I just was like, what's your relationship like with Beanbo? And he went off. He just ran with it. And I was able to break it up in like little chunks of separate quotes because he talked for like 2.5, 3 minutes on what Bill Bedenbaugh meant to him. It was fascinating. And that's the power of Bill Bedenbaugh. And I think you have to there's certain players that are going to be willing to play for him because of what he had and Fasusi said it, Parker. He asks so much of you. He demands so much of you. He is so hard on you, but he loves you just as hard and he loves you just as hard on and off the field. And that's what makes you great. And that's why he develops you. And I was like, man, that's a quote. That's a quote now. And that was just off what's Bill Beanbo like recruiting you? And why do you like Oklahoma so much? And he just went off. And this was like right on the heels of him calling him the GOAT, by the way. So he was already high on him after the interview. I if this came down to just strictly development, Oklahoma wins this thing hands down. Hands down.
Yeah. And that to me, like again, going back to Babalola, okay, because correct me if I'm wrong here, Brandon. The way I see it, pre NIL, if we are living in the year 2019 instead of the year
Mhm.
2024, Bill Bedenbaugh probably already has both Lamont Rogers and Michael Fasusi
He
committed.
does. He does. And you said the pre NIL thing, and that I was actually going to go there with this. So Texas had this immaculate class in 2022, right? And by the way, I think their offensive line coach is really good. So I will never, you know, talk negatively about that. But he's not Bill Bedenbaugh. And number two, they got that class because they were the only school doing the NIL stuff at that time. Remember, they were like outside the A&M, they were the one school that was they had their own the pancake, right? What was it, the Pancake House's NIL thing? Is that what it's
Yes.
called? And they pay them all like six figures to come play at Oklahoma or go play at Texas. Since that has taken place, they have not been as dominant on the offensive line since everybody else has kind of joined the fray. You notice that?
Somebody in the chat says if Babalola goes to Stanford, he ain't serious about playing in the NFL. I guess he could always take the Walter Rouse path, go get his undergrad degree at Stanford, and then come play for Bill Bedenbaugh for a
There
year.
you go. And that's the other thing. Like if I'm Bill Beanbo, I use Walter Rouse to coerce Balwell, and I bet you they do. I bet
Also,
you they do.
Virgil Walker threw us another $20. Thank you, sir. He
Appreciate you,
says,
brother.
I'm grateful for all the work you men put in. I'm so informed here in SEC country because of you. It's a joy to support your work. I hope to catch you guys at a game. Happy Juneteenth, Parker. Well, happy Juneteenth to you as well,
Yes, sir.
Virgil. And Auburn, if that's, I mean, I know that's probably going to be the closest game for you this fall. So you want to touch base, grab dinner sometime over the course of that week, because I'll probably be there for a few days before the Auburn game. We'll
Hmm.
certainly connect, my friend. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Um, Christy, just real quick, I was reading your little thing there saying it's 50,000. Yes, it was 50,000 from the Pancake House, but they had another NIL that came on top of it to help them get to that six-figure mark. So they were doing some work because I remember when they came in, they had like no O line and they were making sure they got it. And they have an amazing offensive line right now because of it, and gonna get some dudes drafted because of it. So, and have gotten dudes drafted, I guess, because of it. So, um, let's talk about ChampU BBQ real quick. I know we have been a little bit, but outside of Emmanuel Choice, CJ Nixon, who do you feel like gets things done as far as commitment goes? If you were a betting man, who else would you have on commit watch that's going to be there this weekend that could pop within the next the during that weekend or the few days after?
Before this morning, I would have said Christian Evans, but
Yeah.
that's off the table now. I think Nixon and Choice are the two easy selections there.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I don't I think it would be a surprise if there were anyone else that came in this weekend that theoretically made a decision that quickly.
Well, I say that, and I know he's in right now, and he's leaving tomorrow evening. But Lamont Rogers is this is his last visit before. I think he's got one more after this, doesn't he? Is he going to Florida State after this? He is, isn't he? Yeah, right.
He is. Yes, Florida
Yeah, it's
State this
Florida
weekend.
State.
That'll be
Yeah,
his last OV. He's not going to Florida State.
no, he's not. But he is supposed to announce the last week of June. That's where he wants to announce. The other person the last week in June and or the first week of July is Amarian Robinson. And I talked to Amari Robinson today, and I know there's been reports out there. I believe Steve Wiltfong put out that he was leaning toward Oregon. I can confirm that. I've talked to him multiple times this week. That's what he's saying. His Oregon leads. Now, I don't know how much I buy that just because I just don't know right now if I buy it just yet. As you said with Lamont Rogers, Persusi, and Babalola, talk to me after this weekend's visits. Talk to me after this weekend's visit at Oklahoma because when I went and saw Amarian Robinson, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend or right before Memorial Day weekend. I asked him about Oklahoma, and he said, when I go to OU, there's something about he goes, I can't even put it in words, but there's something about that place
It's the red
that
dirt.
makes me feel at home, makes me feel comfortable. Well, Arkansas doesn't really have
Onion
red.
burgers. That's what it is.
It probably is that. And he goes, there's just, he goes, I can't describe it.
The
I
sweet
just,
tea is better on this side of the state line.
Arkansas sweet tea is pretty good, bro. Um, I lived there for 5 years.
You're
That's
sounding like
pretty
a
good.
turncoat here.
Sorry. Um, but yeah, he said I can't describe it. I don't know what it is, but when I go there, I feel at home. My family just feels at home. And again, there is a family dynamic to this, and it's really nobody's business that makes Oregon feel like such a long ways away for him to make that move. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Parker, but um,
Yes, I do.
okay. It just doesn't feel like that's going to happen because of that part of the family dynamic. And so I also know mom prefers him at Oklahoma. Dad prefers him at Oklahoma.
So what you're saying is it's going to be
I
Oklahoma.
have I I don't believe I put in a prediction yet, and I've wanted to,
Well, what are you
but
waiting for?
uh I didn't with Jonah Williams, and I saw what happened when everybody else did. I'm gonna hold off on that one.
Excellent answer.
Going to hold off on that one. We didn't put it in for Jonah Williams for a reason because was asked not to do so. Because we were out in front of that thing by a while, a couple days actually. And we literally went on our board and said, we are not putting a pick in because we were asked not to. And then everybody started to do it. And it's never been the same. Not going to give that opportunity to happen again. And it's no reporter's fault, but you just don't want to be, you don't want to be blamed for that. Um, so I think those two could be right. Like, because just of how their timetables are lining up. So that'll be interesting. We get to see Amarian Robinson next week as well, following the OU visit. So that's going to be interesting to be able to talk to him. And anyways, Sooner Cowboys. Something else happened with Jonah Williams. No, 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 no. I mean, like the other than there were some people around his family that weren't particularly thrilled that he was leaning towards Oklahoma on the visit. So, um, those are the two things that happened. Um, what else do we got to talk about here, Parker?
Camp tomorrow. Last camp.
Last camp. A lot of Mustang guys are going to be there. I believe potentially Tyson Poe guy, Jacoby Johnson, twin brothers will be there. Um, I don't have the full list in front of me, but I know there's going to be several 26, 27 targets.
Jackson
That'll
Pyatt.
Jackson Pyatt will be there. That's
That'll
correct.
be one of the bigger names. I think he probably
Yep,
walks away with an offer tomorrow.
I would agree. Um,
Caleb Cruz, really, really solid young
mhm,
defensive back, 2027 kid out of Odessa Permian, who loves him some Oklahoma. So
yep. So,
that's another of the big names. I think.
oh, go ahead. I was going to
Oh,
talk
you
about Jaden O'Neal.
you said oh like you were gonna say
No, no,
something.
no. I was going to talk about Jaden O'Neal because I just remember that we needed to talk about him.
Okay, let's talk about Jaden O'Neal by all means.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of believes he's going to go to Oklahoma. He, if you're on OU Insider, you know that there was a long list of visits that they had planned. What I can tell you is that they're not on those visits anymore. They went to Ohio State and they turned back around and went to California shortly after. A top 10 was announced today. I would bet by July 5th, maybe sooner, there may be a decision made on that front. Maybe. That is kind of what I'm hearing, but 100% before fall camp starts in August for his junior year or senior year, junior, excuse me, his junior year. A decision will be made. We have a pick in for Oklahoma. I like the pick. We will see where that goes from here. So just throwing that out there.
There might be more picks in across the industry for Jaden O'Neal to Oklahoma than I have ever
Very Caleb
seen
Williams-esque,
for
by the
any.
way.
Oh, gosh, man. Like, it feels like there are 10 predictions on every single site for Jaden O'Neal to Oklahoma.
That's where it was with Caleb Williams, remember?
Yes.
Everybody picked him. And by the way, I talked about this. Did I talk about this on here? I think I did. No, I was talking to his dad earlier today. But yeah, his I'm telling you, they went to these camps for the sheer reason to show that they were the best. Like that was their mantra. That is a very Caleb Williams thing to do. That's why they went to camps. They
So
just
what you're
wanted to show
saying
that
is Jaden O'Neal is the next Caleb
no,
Williams.
I think they have the same mentality. The never going to run away from competition mentality.
Let's turn that into a graphic for Twitter. Jaden O'Neal is the next Caleb Williams. So says Brandon Drum.
God, don't do that to me. Yeah. Anyways, no, he's so driven to be. Goodness gracious, Brad 405.
Thank you, Brad. He says, I
Appreciate you.
watch multiple insiders, and I can say, as Sooner fans, we have the best ones. Thanks for keeping us informed and entertained. Hashtag Boomer Sooner. Thanks so much, Brad. We appreciate
Appreciate
the
you, brother.
love. We
Yep.
appreciate the support. And we love doing our jobs, and we try to
Yep.
do them as best we can for all of you.
Yep. Really appreciate you. All right. Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow or midnight tonight, if you want to sign up for OU Insider, I believe it starts midnight tonight, right, Parker?
I believe that is correct. Yes, sir.
I'd have to pull my phone, look at it real quick and fact check me before I open my mouth up and stick a foot in it.
Offer valid begins. Or wait.
And,
Yes. Yes. Midnight tonight.
okay.
Midnight Eastern tonight. So
midnight Eastern tonight. So 11
Central.
p.m. 11 Central tonight. If you want to go over to OU Insider, you can sign up right now. What is the promo code? I believe it's ChampU BBQ 24, correct? Let me pull it up.
ChampU BBQ 24.
ChampU.
ChampU BBQ 24. All caps.
Yep.
Until
All
you get
caps.
to 24. Those are obviously numerals.
Go to OU
ChampU
Insider.
BBQ, all caps 24.
Mm-hmm.
That is the promo code.
And you will get OU Insider for free up to August 10th. I know it's in the middle of fall camp, is what it is, but that's what you get 2 months of OU Insider for free if you go. ChampU BBQ 24 is a promo code. You can sign up at 11 p.m. tonight, or if you're watching this right now and you've watched it delayed and you're watching it being recorded, and let's say it's on a Thursday, it's going on right now. If this is on a Thursday, all the way till I think Monday at 11:59 p.m., I believe. So you better hurry up. You better sign up if you want OU Insider for the next 2 months for free. This is the way to do it. And then you can just go month to month if you want to do it, or you can go a whole year, however you want to do it. But go give us a try. There's a lot of commitments that are going to be taking place. There's a lot of news. SEC Media Day, you're going to get in the middle of that. You're going to get 2 weeks of fall camp. You're going to get the Party in the Palace, the Sooners Under the Stars, the ChampU BBQ. You're going to get all that information right there in that 2 months. This is the time to do it. If you want 2 months for free, this is the time to do it. Go to OU Insider right now. ChampU BBQ 24, all caps. ChampU BBQ 24, all caps. Go get it. You'll get OU Insider all the way into the middle of August for free. Also, subscribe to this channel right here, right now. Subscribe right here, right now. OU Insider YouTube channel. Would love to see you subscribe to that, or go to our podcast, subscribe, Apple, Google, I don't know, Spotify, whatever you listen to it on, give us 5 stars. We'd love to have the good review from you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. All right. Make sure you stay tuned because I got a big Jaden O'Neal interview that's coming up potentially on Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon for sure, it'll be up, and it is amazing.
In the
So
slightly modified words of Tom Haverford, it's time to know your recruit.
it is time to know your recruit. And you're going to get to know your recruit by the name of Jaden O'Neal. Everything from when he was a kid, his favorite hobbies to do. Hey, let me tell you a little secret. This dude is artistic as hell. And he shows it to you on the YouTube if you watch it. Um, it's amazing. We'll probably have it up on the podcast form as well. So just make sure you stay tuned to wherever you listen to us or watch us. Make sure you stay tuned and make sure you watch that interview. All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day. We will see you guys next week.